Hello, hello. Welcome to What's Working Now. I am your host, Katie Richardson. And if you are not watching this video, you can't see that I'm sitting next to a very strong, handsome young man that I'm going to be interviewing today. Today's guest is Walker Richardson. Yes, it is my son, my 18-year-old son, who lives with us here in Puerto Rico. And I thought it would be so exciting for you entrepreneurial parents to get to hear what goes on in the head and the mind of a young child who's not young anymore, who has grown up in a home of entrepreneurship. And so I'm really excited because, one, I'm very proud as a mother of my son and who he is and all of the amazing things that he has done in his life. And two, I think that it will be really exciting for you as an entrepreneur and parents to hear his unique perspective. So whether or not you're just starting out in your entrepreneurial journey and your kids are really young, or maybe you're grown up, and you want to understand how can we help and support the next generation of young entrepreneurs, this is a chance to really hear the perspective, the mind, the voice, the experience of an 18-year-old in the world today. So Walker Richardson, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Super excited to have you. I've had this in my mind for a long time, and we are finally here making this happen. Make sure you're close to the microphone so everybody can hear you. So I want to hear from your perspective. Tell us the story of an experience that has really formed and shaped how you view the world today.
When we went to Taiwan when I was in first grade, I think I was 7 years old, we spent a month and 1 day there. And prior to that, I hadn't really left the country much, or even the state. And after a month in a foreign Asian country, your eyes are opened. You see everything is, I don't know, much more diverse. The world was bigger after I went there. And I understood there was more people than the people I knew. Like, there's kids outside of my school, and there's parents outside of, friend groups and soccer teams, and I really got to understand how vast the world was a little bit.
So you were in second grade. I think you were 7 when we went, and school had actually just gone into session again. It was the fall, October 1st is when we left. And, you were coming into the second grade, and then all of a sudden your parents are like, guess what? We're going to Taiwan. What did you think of that? Like, none of your friends had done something like this. So in your second grade mind, was that exciting? Was it cool? Was it weird, annoying? What did that look like for you?
Yeah, I was beyond excited. I could not believe that I got to do that. I didn't even know what to expect, but I knew that it was going to be an adventure, and it would be something that I'd be able to tell all my friends about, and that I'd remember for the rest of my life. And I was so grateful that I had the opportunity to go.
Yeah. Well, one, that's really cool to hear as your mother.
Yeah.
Now, something that you might not know is while we were there for the company, Pudge, and we went because for a couple different reasons. Dad had to oversee manufacturing, and he'd been doing that a lot and had been traveling a ton. And it just, it's not good for family life for Dad to be gone months at a time. And so I was the one who made the decision because he was really dragging his feet to go again. Not because he didn't know how to work hard, but he just wondered if that was the best thing for the family.
Yeah.
And so I made the decision. I said, what if we all go and I will figure it all out? And so I did. And we hop on this plane, we go. And part of why we were there was for him to oversee manufacturing. And we were also raising money for Pudge.
Yeah.
I don't know if you knew any of this.
I was told after.
And we were basically expecting to see $1 million in the business bank account any day now. And until then, we were living on very little.
Yeah.
So do you remember how we were eating noodles off the hot plate in our tiny little apartment?
Yep.
There was a reason for that.
Yeah.
And so what happened, and if you have listened to this podcast from the beginning, I tell this story in episode 4. But what happened while we were there is the investors told us we're not raising the money and we want to see this company burn. And my world was falling apart. Did you see any of that? Did you know that?
No, I had no idea.
Did you know that even until now? Have I ever shared that story with you?
Maybe, but not in that perspective.
Yeah.
Not in that light.
So yeah, our world was falling apart. And it's interesting because I think as entrepreneurs, we're trying so hard to build a beautiful life for our family. And sometimes that means that we're carrying really heavy news. and kids are bouncing off the walls, wanting to go play. And I'm like, hold on, our world is falling apart. Can you just give mom a minute? And so you didn't even see any of that.
No.
I mean, I wasn't, yeah, I would say I was definitely trying to hide it from you guys. Not in like a, well, yeah, I didn't want your world to fall apart.
It didn't.
It didn't. Good.
Yeah.
I mean, I was carrying a lot of stress.
I had no idea.
And I want to share this side of it. I want to hear from you more, but I want to share this side of it. Like, I think in times like that, I never wanted money to be a limiter in our life. Mm-hmm. And it was literally limiting my finances at that time.
Yeah.
And you guys thought it was so exciting that we got to have noodles for breakfast and that we were having noodles every night. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Well, now you know the reason why. And I was continually trying to not introduce scarcity into your mind.
Yeah.
At that time.
Yeah. Well, it worked.
Yeah.
I thought we were just having fun and embracing the culture.
Well,
with the noodles and the dumplings.
That was my effort. And I'm happy to hear that so that has been a big influence in your life, this frame of abundance. You grew up in a very, what we call in this family, not normal.
Yeah.
We used to say that a lot. You grew up in a not normal family.
Uh-huh.
How was that different from what you could see that your friends were experiencing?
Maybe not what you're expecting me to say, but a major factor is I could tell that my friends, I don't know how their parents were staying about the same. They weren't changing much. There wasn't much progress going on, and their lifestyle remained about the same. And okay. I was observing as my life went on, our lives were changing dramatically. They were changing a lot. And we were traveling a lot more, which I thought was super cool. We were seeing a lot more places. And I just got to take in a lot more stuff than a lot of my friends were able to do. Mm-hmm. But the major thing that I noticed that separated us from them was that we were kind of progressing. And they weren't bad, and they weren't, mm-hmm. they weren't poor or anything, but they remained the same about where they were.
Yeah. Something that we talk a lot about in our family is your thoughts and your thinking and mindset. I'm curious if you noticed a difference between the mindset that was kind of the dominant mindset in your home with entrepreneurial parents versus the mindset in a friend whose family was living maybe a more traditional life. Could you notice differences and distinctions?
Yeah, I definitely had some friends who also viewed the world from an entrepreneurial standpoint.
Yeah.
Even though their parents didn't necessarily. But I did have some friends who they didn't look at the world like that. They looked at it more as is, and kind of in a traditional standpoint where they would look for something stable and they just strive for that. Something that had guarantees and safety. But there was also friends that were helpful for me to develop because they were just as ambitious, I'd say.
Okay. And
they would go out and pressure wash driveways, or I don't know, try and sneak their way into the stock market, do that kind of thing. And that was fun for me to grow with them in those areas.
Yeah. Can you think of any experiences growing up in our home that really stick out to you, where you could share a story of, like, I'm thinking of the times when we were trying to make the decision about whether or not to do manufacturing in Vietnam. Do you remember that experience?
Yeah.
I'll tee you up here.
Okay.
So we were at a critical point in our business where we were adding some new products and they were being featured on the Ellen DeGeneres show. And that feature was coming up soon and we knew it. And so we needed to really get manufacturing going so that people who saw this spot on Ellen could purchase the product. And we didn't have any I sent them a prototype. We didn't actually have manufacturing set up for these shoes. And so there was this factory that we were talking to, and we were working with an agent in Vietnam, and none of our manufacturing was in Vietnam. So it would be like a new presence. And so we were trying to figure it out. We were talking with this agent, and we were trying to make a really critical decision. And we could tell, my husband and I could tell that we were very emotionally driven in this decision. And I knew that you were probably what, 7 or 8 or 9?
Yeah.
I knew that he understood how to make critical decisions and critical thinking, and that he would be not emotionally invested or involved in the outcome of this decision. And I could tell I was getting too emotionally caught up in it. And so tell everybody the story. What do you remember?
This is new. You're going to have to continue. That was too long ago.
I just remember sitting at the kitchen table in the old house. It was the kitchen table that was my grandfather's. Do you remember that kitchen table?
Yeah.
Which again, we had a lot of used furniture in those early days because that's just where we were at. Yeah. Everything was being invested back into the company.
Yeah.
And we were sitting at that table, and I think I was sitting down with you and Dad was standing up, and we were presenting to you the 2 options. And it was either invest in this guy who we don't know if we can trust and we don't have a relationship with, and maybe he helps us manufacture these shoes and he needs us to wire a huge chunk of that money today, or try and figure out how to piece it together ourselves in the US. Do you remember this conversation?
Now that you framed the question, I do remember. Yeah.
Yeah. So tell everybody what you like. I mean, I remember sitting there thinking, this is so unique and different that we're sitting here counseling with our 9-year-old this really critical business decision.
Yeah. Well, I mean, from a 9-year-old's perspective, you look at things as they are, for face value, and the way you framed it, there was no other way than to do it yourself.
See, even still, I would make, and that's what you said that day. I remember you were like, it's so clear.
Yeah.
Why?
Well, part of it is because I had a lot of faith in you guys, and there was no doubt in my mind that you guys could do it.
Wow. Okay. That's interesting. And see, I was probably doubting that we could do it ourselves.
Yeah.
And I wanted to throw what I call throwing money at the problem. I wanted to throw money at the problem and hope that that would fix it.
Yeah.
And do you want to tell everybody the end of the story? Do you know the end of the story?
No.
Well, guess what? That guy, we wired him the money and he disappeared on us. And we ended up having to do it on ourselves, minus the money.
Really?
Yeah. So you were right. You were right. And even though I knew that I was making an emotional decision, me and Dad both made that decision to wire the money to the Vietnam agent, and he disappeared. We haven't heard from him since.
Wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah. So you were right. Yeah.
That's crazy.
And if you want to hear the rest of that story, it's in one of the episodes where I talk about the Ellen show and making 400 pairs of shoes. That was kind of the behind the scenes. Yeah. And you were there. So Walker, tell us more about what have you loved or hated about growing up in the home of Ben and Katie Richardson? And you can be honest here.
A lot of things I loved. There's a lot of things that's good. I just got to follow in your guys' footsteps a little bit. So, and I got to like kind of listen in on your guys' conversations late at night. You'd be talking about your deals or your plans. And I just, sit there and listen while you guys talk. So I got a lot of, even if I didn't remember a lot of it, it set my point of view and my mindset to something that's productive and like a good work ethic, because I watched you guys work and talk and figure things out and consult each other. And, I got to celebrate you guys' wins. You guys I can't name any of them in particular, but there were some times where something big happened and we'd kind of sit down and celebrate it or have a dinner.
We did.
Yeah.
That was something important to me, was to celebrate as a family.
Yeah.
Can you remember what we would do in those celebration moments? Well, there was always food.
I think we had fondue a couple of times.
Yeah. Fondue, pizza.
Yeah. Pizza, fondue. And then we would do like a cheer or something.
Yeah.
Tell me about it. I can't. It's so long ago.
Well, we would just acknowledge what had happened.
Yeah.
And it was important to me and Ben to make sure that you guys felt like you were a part of that.
Yeah, we did. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Happy to hear that you felt like you were a part of that.
Oh, the other
What?
thing is that we got to experience the warehouse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tell everybody about that. Like, what were some of the things that you guys would do at the warehouse?
It was kind of like a jungle gym. There's boxes and stairs and the handheld forklift thingies.
I mean, do you know how big those things were? The warehouses he's talking about, one of them was 9,000 square feet and it had a really cool old wood floor.
That one was super
And you
cool.
guys would ride that plasma bike around and weave through the boxes and under the tables and the desks. There was that one. And then there was a 20,000 square foot warehouse with a ramp.
Yeah. And we even worked in them for when I was a little bit older.
Yeah.
I was like 14, 13. We worked there for the summer.
Yeah. You got to work alongside Kamibi.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hi, Kamibi. He's a guy that I hired. I should tell a story really quick. I was at a Home Depot and it's so hard to get good help at Home Depot. And sometimes you'll get one side of the store and you realize you need a cart and you didn't grab it, at least if you're me. And so I realized there was an employee who was actually helping me. And then he said, oh, you're going to need a cart. And I was about to run and go get one. And he takes off sprinting. And it was Kamibi.
I remember that.
He's an incredible, like one of my favorite employees. And so he was at the Home Depot and he helped me so many times. And then he helped me take it out to my car. And then he helped me pile everything into the car. And when I got home, I was like, that's the kind of person that I want to work at my warehouse. And then I realized, duh, you idiot, you should give him your business card. And like, I don't know if you know this story, like 4 days later, I'm at IKEA. Guess who I ran into in an IKEA shirt? It was Kamibi. He was working at Home Depot and IKEA. And that's when I gave him my business card. And this time I wasn't in like my workout clothes. I was like dressed up really good. Yeah. And I looked like a superstar and the boss. And I let him know I am a boss. And I'm looking for somebody to come work in my company and manage my warehouse. And he like dropped his jaw and he's like, yeah, I want to do that. That's the story of Kamibi. But you got to work with Kamibi multiple times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know how helpful I was, but I loved hanging out with him.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was another thing we got to do is we got to interact with you guys as employees. Like Teresa, I remember hanging, like I used to play on her computer. Watching she was working. Milan.
Yeah.
The intern.
The French intern.
Yeah, I stayed with us.
Hi, Milan.
Milan was fun. We
had
a lot of fun times together.
Did you ever get to do any design projects at Pudge? Like I know we sketched on stuff a lot at home at the kitchen table. We would sketch out ideas.
Yeah. Well, Dad would like bring home whatever he was working on sometimes.
Prototypes.
Yeah, yeah. And then just let us just have fun with it and do whatever, like design it and think of whatever fun names we could come up with and maybe change it however we'd want to. I don't know if any of those ever went into production, but
I remember you guys were so good at coming up with names.
Yeah.
You were really good at it.
We loved doing that.
Yeah.
And, it felt important to contribute.
Yeah.
Even though 8, 9, 10, somewhere there.
Yeah. So we ended up selling that business.
Yeah.
5 years ago.
That's a while ago.
And all of a sudden, trips to the warehouse, working alongside employees, like that changed. That wasn't there anymore. So how did it affect your life when we sold Pudge?
In all honesty, I felt like we made it. I felt like we had built the business, worked on it, grown it, and we're done. And that was it.
Just living the dream now.
Yeah, just living it up.
driving your mom's Beamer to school.
Yeah, driving a nice car. I mean, you guys bought the Mini Cooper too, right?
Yeah.
With the underglow lights, and I thought that was super cool.
Yeah.
So I wasn't worried. I was loving it. But as the years went on, and then you started coaching, that was fun to watch you grow and progress. Because that was big. I don't want to say hurdle, but it's kind of what it looked like. It was
a very, very difficult hurdle for me to become a coach. It looked like a natural evolution to everybody else, but it was extremely difficult for me. So you noticed the change in me.
Yeah.
And shifting that.
Me and Truman would talk about it sometimes.
Really? What'd you say?
It's hard to remember, but I don't know. We just feel like Mom seems more, I don't know, energized, and because you would bring the energy when you go on the meetings, you come home or come walk in the door from the office. And you'd be all happy, jumping around. Yeah. So we could tell that you were doing something that brought you energy and made you happy. And that was really cool to see.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So 5 months ago, we made a family decision. Me and Dad made a decision and then told you guys about it.
Yeah.
But we had counseled with you a little bit, kind of in secret in a way.
Well, yeah.
Tell everybody about that change and what it meant for you and where you were in your life. You were a senior in high school.
Yeah. Well, originally I thought we were going to leave a year prior.
Yeah.
So I was mentally ready to go. I was ready to be living on an island.
And we would come to you and we would say, hey, hypothetically speaking,
Yeah.
if we were considering moving somewhere international, what would you think of that? Because he was really active on his football team and the lacrosse team. And let's be honest, you're like a really popular guy. You're the nucleus. You're the guy that everybody at all the surrounding schools, everybody knows you and you're friends with everybody and they all love you. And you were setting records at your school, like not a small thing to pull you out of that environment. And anytime we would bring it up, you always had the same response, which was what?
I wanted to go next week. I was ready to leave.
Yeah, you were. Why?
I felt like that everything I involved myself in back home in Washington, that I was successful in and I thrived. And so I thought there's no way I wouldn't thrive moving to a new country or in Puerto Rico. And it would just be so many new experiences, kind of like Taiwan. And I'd feel and experience new cultures and I'd be able to interact with people better because I could understand where more people came from. And I knew that anything I did in Puerto Rico would go well.
Yeah.
So, and it has.
So one of the things that Ben and I were looking for was a foreign language, and we were wanting Spanish specifically. And so we'd been looking around a couple of different options and we really zeroed in on Puerto Rico. So when we finally made the decision, for anybody who doesn't know this story, Ben came out December 11th to Puerto Rico because neither one of us had been here. And I said, can you just help us decide whether or not that's the right move for all 6 of us in our family? He comes out here and within 24 hours of being here, he calls me and he says, Katie, 100%. Absolutely. No question. This is the best move for all of us. And I said, are you serious? And he said, yes. And I said, okay, I am booking 6 one-way tickets to Puerto Rico. They leave in 2.5 weeks. And then he still had like 5 or 6 days in Puerto Rico to try and find us a place to live. And we couldn't wait for him to get home to tell the kids. Like the kids were coming up on their last day of school before Christmas break. And I said, they need to know before Christmas break.
Yeah.
And so do you remember how we told you guys?
Did he send a video?
He zoomed in.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And we told you over, I was home with you. He was here in Puerto Rico and he told you over Zoom that we're moving. And what was everybody's response?
They were so excited.
They're like, we have to wait 10 days.
Yeah.
10 days. How are we going to wait 10 days? They were super excited.
And the background on the Zoom call is just stunning.
Yeah, it looks like a green screen, but it's not.
Yeah. And so everyone was just ecstatic to come here and experience that in real life.
Which, by the way, that's our view right now. Maybe we should have done it there. I need to show it to everybody. For those of you watching, hello.
Let's set this back up. There we go.
That's the view. So that was the background view that Ben was telling you. And what were you thinking when you saw that, Walker? You're like, sweet, let me get my muscles going, my tan.
Yeah. I was ready for some sunshine.
Yeah.
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 Warm up.
So you have spent the second semester of your senior year in a foreign land with a foreign language and didn't know anybody when we moved here. How has it gone for you? I mean, that's a lot.
Yeah. I think the biggest surprise was, I don't know if that's just Puerto Rico, but the people I met were so nice. Despite the language barrier.
Yeah.
I don't know, they were just so willing to help and like struggle to speak some English to me so I could get around. But yeah, that was big. Everyone was super kind and fun to be around. Getting to learn Spanish was huge.
Yeah.
Having
Sí, señor.
Yeah, having a local tutor here who could teach me some Espanol.
Yeah. And you've been getting good at it.
Yeah, I've been practicing a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. And making some Puerto Rican friends who could show me the in and outs of the island. That was really fun and a good move.
Yeah. And you have. Where have you met those people?
At the gym.
The gym.
Yeah, meet him at the gym.
Yeah.
We had a common interest.
Yeah. Which is muscles.
Looking good. That's our intentions.
Yeah. And they've taken you out on their boat and snorkeling on these exotic islands surrounding Puerto Rico. And you've had some really cool experiences.
Yeah. And even some of the people we met that weren't Puerto Rican, but
yes,
have lived here longer than us.
So it turns out there's a very big entrepreneurial community in Puerto Rico. And so what he's referencing is we've met people who own 9 hotels, who are literally changing the face of energy. That's Jeff. I was just talking to him this morning. Like really, really incredible people who think similar to your mom and your dad.
Yeah. Yeah. I had a conversation with Jeff yesterday for like an hour and a half. And he was just, when he was talking, I was like, man, he sounds just like my parents. You guys would get along great.
And usually, as you were talking to other people.
Yeah, usually it's not the same.
No.
Yeah, everyone's nice, but they just don't think the same way necessarily.
Yeah.
And Jeff does. Yeah.
Yeah.
Along with everyone else we've met here.
In fact, did I tell you I need you. I'm doing a podcast interview with Jeff tomorrow from the hot tub. So get ready for that episode. From the hot tub, overlooking the ocean as the sun is rising. Walker's going to take some pictures and video for us.
Yeah.
You'll get to meet Jeff. So what are some of your awesome experiences and memories that you can share with people when it comes to living in Puerto Rico for the second semester of your senior year?
Well, I got to experience kind of self-learning.
Yeah. Because you've been homeschooling.
Yeah, but even like I'm at a level in my schooling where I'm above my parents. And so I have to teach myself or seek out people who can teach me. And that has been really good. And one of the big takeaways from that is that I need to establish structure for myself. Yeah. So I feel like I've positioned myself where I can succeed in anything else I want to learn, because I've had this experience here for 6 months where I'm forced to teach myself essentially. Yeah.
And I've noticed you really take ownership of that since we've been here.
Yeah.
And you started to develop a morning routine. Like you've watched your mom and your dad do that over the years. Mm-hmm. And you started to develop your own morning routine. Can you tell people what that looks like for you? Give them just like the ultimate ideal. I know it's not perfect every day, but what does that look like sometimes?
Wake up early, like before sunrise. Sunrise is like 5:50, so I'd wake up 5:10 usually, then shower and do all the morning stuff and head downstairs in my swimsuit. And I go either run on the beach or I'd run along this big grassy field right along the ocean. And when I get to the end, I do some stretches, try to loosen up, stretch out, and take some pictures of the sunrise. And then as the sun's rising, I do my run back. And I'd sit in the hot tub while the sun's rising, and then go cold and hot from the pool to the hot tub.
So good.
And about 8:00, maybe 7:30, I'd come back upstairs and pick out a book.
Like what? What are some of the ones that you've been reading while you've been here?
Business kind of books or like habit books, just self-development, really.
Tell us the titles. That's what I'm trying to get to.
Oh, I got you.
Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Atomic Habits.
Napoleon Hill.
Yeah, Napoleon Hill's books. Speed reading courses.
Yeah, you got really good at speed reading.
I could read really fast. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I finished Atomic Habits on the airplane to San Diego.
Yeah.
Which was something else I got to do.
Yeah. You can tell. Well, finish your day and then tell them that story.
Okay, day's finished. So I'd finish my reading.
You'd grab the book, but you would go read it somewhere.
Oh, it's true. We have a bell tower on top of our building.
Yeah.
And it overlooks kind of all of our community.
Yeah.
And it's got the ocean breeze coming through, and it's all painted white on the inside. Uh-huh. This is a big white bell
cement
tower
cavity
with no bell in it.
Yeah.
And so it's super bright and just pleasant up there. Sometimes the birds will come and just sit on the edge. So I'd kind of sit down in there and I'd read a lot of pages because I was speed reading.
And what everybody needs to know is those bell towers, you're not supposed to go up in there. It's like a maintenance only people up there kind of place.
Yeah.
And most people would be like, oh, you're not allowed to go up that ladder. And did you think twice?
No.
This is a product of being a child of Ben and Katie Richardson.
Yeah. Just
mostly Ben Richardson.
walk into the ladder shaft and climb up the ladder with the book in your mouth.
Yeah.
It's too narrow to hold anything. Yeah.
Yeah. You went up there, you read the book, and that's how you would start your day. You did that a lot this semester.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot of days like that. And then I come down and I cook my meal for the day because I do some intermittent fasting.
Yeah.
So I'd cook my meal and I'd put it in a little Tupperware, put it in the fridge, and that would be my kind of late lunch later in the day.
Yeah.
From there on, I'd sit down on the computer and learn some things that I couldn't necessarily learn myself.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd take courses in math and programming.
On Khan Academy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what's that do? History. I'd watch a lot of history videos and I'd find history literature to read up on. And
then Rosie, our Spanish tutor, would come.
Yeah. And me and Rosie would spend 45 minutes every day learning Spanish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then when all of that work was done, you and Truman and Sterling and your buddies, John and Josh, you would hop in the golf cart.
And we'd drive to the gym.
You'd go to the gym. You'd go to the golf course, the driving range.
Yeah, we'd drive to the driving range and just hit some balls.
And where else would you go? Way far on the island.
Very south part where we live.
Yeah.
There's no houses and it's just kind of palm trees and hills. In the ocean, obviously, a bunch of caves. And so we started building a little fort.
Swiss Family Robinson Crusoe.
Yeah.
Fort.
A little shack with palm leaves or palm ferns, I think is what they're called.
Yeah. And bamboo.
For a roof and bamboo walls and stuff. And that was really cool.
Yeah. So one of the things that I thought was so cool was, kids build forts, but you started to take it to the next level and you started taking pictures of it. And then you would come home and in Photoshop, you would kind of design out the next build phase of your fort, which is just so cool.
Yeah.
So cool.
Make a rendering of the potentially future building we're building.
Yeah.
And then that's what it would become.
Yeah. And then sometimes you guys would go back to Johnny's house and he would make dinner. You guys would come here and hang out in the hot tub. Yeah. So what do you think of that life, Walker?
It's been fun. It's been a lot of fun. It's something I can get used to.
Something else that I've noticed is you take note of the people in our church congregation. So for anybody listening, we are LDS in our family, and there's only one English speaking LDS congregation for the whole island. And so people come from all over in this one congregation on Sundays. And you started to notice something about the people in our congregation.
They're all doing pretty well. That's what I say.
They're really exceptional people who think similar to your mom and dad.
Yeah. And they're really awesome people to hang out with and be around.
Yeah. And so you started doing things like taking notice of people and you would get to know them and you would even put their phone number in your phone because you're like, someday.
Yeah. There's a lot of phone numbers in there that I don't know when they'll be useful, but there's definitely going to be a time when I'll pull off one of those.
Yeah.
Use it.
Yeah.
And a lot of their, I can mimic their habits and learn from them because they're good people to learn from.
Yeah.
You can just kind of through osmosis, just soak in their traits.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And one of the things that you hinted to a bit ago was that you got to come with me on a work trip a couple of months ago to San Diego. Tell everybody about that trip, what we did and what your responsibility was.
Have you talked about it yet?
I don't think so, no.
Oh, well, Katie got invited to go speak at what would you call it?
It's a retreat for one of my clients, Ben Humble.
And I got to tag along. And I was her camera guy.
No, but see, I didn't invite you to be a tag along.
No, I filmed it. I was filming it. But
there you go. Yeah.
As I was filming it, I was also learning a lot from the people over there.
Yeah.
And, I had my little camera up or I was doing all that, but I was also, my ears were out. I was listening to everything they were saying. You were. And I think I even went back and watched some of this footage to see what I heard and think about it and then to reflect on that.
Yeah. And I noticed that on that trip, like you were actively engaging with everybody who was at that retreat, both other speakers and leaders and attendees. And you were really curious and asking questions and open and not in the background at that event. Like you kind of became one of the guys at the event.
Yeah, that was what I tried to do.
Yeah.
And it worked. Yeah. Made a lot of friends. There's a lot of people there that I would totally relink with and make something happen.
Yeah. I think that was the first time that you've seen me speak live in person professionally.
Yeah.
That was your mom. There wasn't a stage, and the setup at this place, it was a really, really cool Airbnb in San Diego that was like the most unique custom home you've ever seen. And everybody else who had spoken at that point was standing on the same ground as the chairs. And I was like, that doesn't work for me. I need a stage. And there was potentially a stage in the backyard, but it was rainy. And so we couldn't do it in the backyard. And so I got creative. And what did I end up doing?
Right next to where everybody was speaking, there was a big fireplace and the mantle.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was like this big kind of sphere that went around, semicircle that went around the whole fireplace. And it was unused space. And it was probably 2 feet above the ground where everybody else was sitting. So you started on the ground, and as you were speaking, you just stepped up onto there.
I immediately stood up.
That became your stage.
Yeah.
And I noticed after you were done speaking, a couple of people were like, "Oh, that's a good idea," and they would stand up on it, but they didn't feel like they belonged there, so they stepped back down. But yeah, you definitely you owned it up there.
There was one woman afterwards who came and talked to me, and I was wearing this brown leather skirt and these boots that had a high heel on them, and like that standing up on stage. She was a woman who's older than me, who's had like a really incredible career. She's an engineer at, I think she said Procter and Gamble.
Wow.
And she just could not get over the experience of seeing a woman really owning being a woman in a skirt and heels and like really owning that stage. And so, yeah, you got to experience that.
That was really fun. That was the first time I'd seen you in that energy.
Yeah. And what was happening for the people in the audience as I was speaking?
Everyone was feeling it. They were going through their what would you call it? I'd say like kind of revelation, but I don't know if that's the right word.
Yeah, they were seeing new possibility for themselves.
Yeah, their eyes were opened.
Yeah.
And I saw them all ferociously writing down whatever they were thinking.
Yep.
And, yeah.
So that was important for me for multiple reasons. Like I wanted you to get to come and to work with me and to record and document that because I needed that to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And I had, in a lot of ways, I had prepared him to be ready for an experience like that. Before we came to Puerto Rico, I went above and beyond and made sure that you had a new phone, which was the latest iPhone.
Mm-hmm. I
made sure you had that. And you also got something for Christmas.
We got a drone.
High
quality photography drone.
And so I ensured that you had some of that equipment so that it would make sense for you to come and help me on work trips like this. And you could have that experience, but not just as like a Walker's just in the background. Like I wanted you to be able to be actively engaged with people, and having the camera was a really cool way for you to do that.
Yeah, kind of gave me a purpose of being there.
Mm-hmm.
And added some value.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, you absolutely did. So for anybody who's listening and they have younger kids and they are an entrepreneur, what advice would you give them for how to raise a child to follow in their footsteps and be? Well, I should ask you, do you plan on being an entrepreneur in your life?
I do. I do. There's no other way.
And you're at a critical point in your life where you're trying to make some really important decisions. Yeah. Right?
Mm-hmm.
You tell everybody what you're doing right now.
Which context?
Well, there's a lot of different directions that you could go and a lot of different possibility. And you're kind of exploring some of those. So what are some of the things that you're considering right now?
Well, applying for colleges.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be heading off to college more than likely.
Yes.
And
in January, though, we've decided
semester late.
He wants a little bit of more Puerto Rican experience.
A little more Puerto Rican experience, but also some time where I can, maybe start my own little business.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of feed off the people here who are also entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
And learn from them and, shape my whatever I create.
And what's your intention for going to college?
College is going to be primarily a medium of broad experiences that I wouldn't have gotten from other places. And maybe things that I'm not necessarily interested in, but that will add value. And even if I don't see the value at the moment, they'll definitely help eventually.
Yeah, because the truth is the world has changed and you don't necessarily need a diploma, and you're not going for the diploma.
No, that's not the primary goal.
Yeah. So you're making some of those decisions. So what would you share to that person who has young kids and they're listening to you and you're like, dang, Walker Richardson's really awesome. I want my kids to be like him. Can I just tell everybody really quick? We took him out for his 18th birthday about a month ago for dinner. And we're sitting at this beautiful restaurant along the water with the ocean breeze coming in as the sun was setting. And you said do you remember what you said to me and Dad?
Well, we talked a lot. I don't know. We had like a 2-hour conversation.
We said, well, you're 18. Like, what do you think? And I just remember you kind of shaking your head and smiling. And you said, what did you say?
I think I said, you guys did good.
Yeah. You said, you guys should be really proud of yourself because I have a really amazing life.
Yeah.
And I'm really happy with who I am.
Yeah.
I mean, that to me, that gets me choked up. That's the ultimate. That was really special.
Yeah. Well, I knew it was true. And I thought that was something that you guys would appreciate to hear and deserve to understand.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Okay. Mom tears. So what would you say to that parent who sees the man that you are today and they're like, I think that would be really good for my kids. What's some advice that you would give to those parents?
I think the most helpful thing you guys did for me was that you let me be involved with what you guys are doing. And, you guys would run decisions past me. I don't know if my opinion was impactful at all, but it was important to me that I got to be a part of that.
Yeah.
And, when I was a part of it, it made me interested and it made me kind of, I don't know, it was just something that I was enthralled in because I got to be part of it. And that was a big deal. Yeah.
You had ownership.
Yeah. I felt like I was important. Yeah.
You were.
Yeah.
Still are.
Thank you. I'm on the podcast.
Yes, you are. Walker, thank you.
Of course.
This was awesome.
Thank you.
Something I've been wanting to do for a long time. And we made it happen. So I want to share really quick. We'll wrap up in a second, Walker, but I want to make sure everybody knows. This is almost like an aside. I have a really cool training that's coming up, and I want to make sure that you have a chance to go engage in this training. And part of what you got to experience with Walker today is a result of me asking the question, how can I build an incredible business and have a beautiful, balanced family life? And that is the question that I was always asking myself. And I think you can see through Walker's experience and my experience that we've done a really good job kind of solving that puzzle and answering that question. And so coming up this Tuesday, I'm going to be doing, it might not actually be this Tuesday, depending on when you're listening to it, but coming up soon, I'm doing an incredible training where I'm going to show you the secret to having an explosive business and a balanced family life. And there's a chance for you to learn how to operate in this way. And Walker is a really good product of trying to figure that out.
Thank you. And
so to access that training, there's a link in the show notes, but go to www.katierichardson.com/funlife. That's the link.
I like it.
Fun life, because that has been the goal for me. And I think you have done a really beautiful job of illustrating how it was not easy, by the way. There's a lot more that I think you don't know.
There's a lot of things that went on behind the scenes that I think I realize now that I didn't before.
You didn't.
Yeah.
And it wasn't that I was trying to hide it from you. It just wouldn't contribute to you having the childhood that I wanted you to be able to have.
Yeah. Even when we were, eating minimal, trying to budget our food.
Yeah.
I thought we were just doing great.
Yeah. Canned peaches. That's what it was.
Canned peaches.
Yeah. Did you know that we were living on food storage all those years?
Well, I do now, but I don't think I did in time.
Yeah. Like you would just help me grind the wheat and we would make bread from scratch. And that was just kind of a cool thing that we would do with Mom in the kitchen.
Yeah. I thought that was just fun.
I love it. That was my goal.
Yeah.
fun life. That is why the link is fun life. Yeah. go.katiericardson.com/fun life. So Walker, thank you. This has been absolutely amazing. We're about to leave Puerto Rico just for 2 months to go take a vacation back in Washington State. And then we'll be back in August. And thank you. This was awesome. Having me. Is there any parting words or wisdom that you want to share with our audience, entrepreneurs?
I think my special notes, my contribution to this podcast was being able to share that the most helpful thing was that you engaged me. And that's that would be the takeaway for me.
So good. We'll end with that. Walker, thank you. And for everybody who's listening, this is what's working now.